Okay, class, so I'm going to try to do a demo here of laying out a live area. This is a little bit difficult because I don't have a cinematographer, and a lot of the tables I have in my house aren't quite big enough for me to be able to position the camera really well, but I think you'll get a pretty good idea. Um, Firstly, though, I want to talk to you a bit about the type of math that you'll need to use to figure out your margins and things for your 18 by 24 piece of paper and the way you could probably lay it out. So I'm going to pause this here for a second and get this so you can see this post-it note. So this is how I presume you probably, there's lots of ways you could lay it out, but this is one of the ways I might think about laying it out with 10 squares is like this, with the paper-oriented landscape. You could also do it upright portrait, but it would change the math a bit. So this is just one example. It'll give you the idea. So 10 squares, 4, 4, and 2. And then I have them oriented so that they're like landscape, 5 inches by 4 inches. So your paper this direction is 24 inches long. Okay? If you have 4 of them 5 inches, that would be 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, so that's 20 inches that need to be taken up by the little canvases. So I took the 24 inches of the paper minus 20, and that left me with 4 inches spare. That is white paper. If I did it just straight up, I could do one after the other, and there'd be a big chunk of 4 inches over here. But we don't want it like that because that's not attractively designed. So I figured out, okay, what do I do with the 4 inches now? I have 1, 2, 3 gutters or gaps between the panels. That would be called gutters in comics. And then a margin over here and a margin here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Okay? So I took that idea and I thought, okay, 5 divided by 4 doesn't end up with a very easy number to deal with. But what I could do, that's pretty normal and nice looking, is give myself 1 1/4 inch over here and 1 1/4 inch over here, and then a 1/2 inch between each of the panels. So that'd be 1, 2, 3. So that's 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2 inches. Okay, so 1 1/2 inches plus 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch is 4 inches. So it'd be a little bit wider on each side and a little bit narrower between those. And that would be kind of a consistent, pretty normal type of way to lay this out. That would look nice. Now I would do the same thing this direction. You have 18 inches, right? And you have 4, 8, 12. 12 inches taken up by the little canvases, so to speak, the little panels. So 18 minus 12 will give you 6, right? And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces by 6. So you could just do straight up 6 divided by 4 and make an even amount of space. Or you could do, like I said before, and this would be a lot better to do, would be to keep the margins between the gutters at 1/2 inch. So that would be 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So that's 1 inch. And then you have 6 left over. So that would be 2 1/2 inches up here and 2 1/2 inches down there for 5, and 5 1/2 and 6, right? So that leaves you with an even amount of gutter space every direction. So 1/2 inch between them, all here, and then 1 1/2 inch on the top and bottom and 1 1/4 inch on the sides. And that'll look pretty nice and even and look like a really good layout. Okay? So if you have questions about this, please post in the course where there's a question and answer cafe, or comment in this little section. But I think this kind of makes sense. It's going off of the same ideas that I talked about with the live area, but this is all inside the live area. So let's say this is what I have now. I know all that's got to be inside the live area. Then I have to lay out the live area, right? So that means I would want to lay out the live area for 1 1/4 inch on these sides and 1 1/4 inch what was it, 2.5 inches on these sides. Okay, so I would do that first rectangle all the way around and then start to lay these out so that they're all square inside of there. I'm going to show you an example of doing this on another piece of paper that's not exactly 18 by 24 because that would be too large for my desk and camera setup, but it'll still show you how I do it and it'll give you a good idea. And then I can post this information about the math or a picture of it inside the module so you can see what I was talking about there. I think you can kind of see it here, but it's it's hard to do because I can't show you a slide and this very well at the same time. So I'm going to pause the camera here for a second and get set up so I can do a little demo of laying out the live area on this piece of paper here. So as I said, I have a little bit of a smaller piece of paper because it's more easy for you to be able to see the entire sheet of paper and what I'm doing. And this is 11 by 17. And I'm just going to lay out a 10 by 15 square in the middle of it, which would be 1/2 inch on each side and then 1 inch on the top and bottom. And that would make a 3:4 ratio, kind of like a panel you would make if you were going to do a comic book or something like that. So I have 11 by 17. I need to make it 10 by 15. So firstly, I know I'm going to need 1 inch on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to take my ruler down here and very carefully get it to the very edge of the paper. Okay. If your ruler's all beat up down on this end and it looks like it's not like square and nice, you're going to maybe want to move in and use like the inch line to do the accurate measurements. Do it from 1 inch over because then you know that these marks are pretty accurate still. But mine hasn't been beat up, so I'm good to go. Now, if you're going a long way down the 24-inch piece of paper, you're going to have to do marks in a few spots because 18 inches won't quite do it, right? So that's important to know too. But anyway, let's stay on track here. I'm going to do this mechanical pencil because it has a lot of, it's a little bit better for me because I can get a really accurate marking line. Just, if you use a regular pencil, it's totally fine. You just need to make sure it's really sharp so you get a really accurate line. And in all honesty, I probably should have just a minute ago had this all the way to the edge to be square. Now, I'm going to actually get right down on the line and look at it with one eye closed because I can see binocular vision throws off. If you put a pencil in front of your eyes and go down and blink back and forth, the pencil will dance back and forth a little bit from one eye, left to right, because you have binocular vision. It throws off markings a little bit. So if you close an eye, you'll get a more accurate marking. You'll actually know your pencil's lined up with the ruler properly. So I have it like that down here. Okay, you can see. And I'm just lined up my middle ruler to both marks, and I'm going to take and do a really light line all the way across. Why do I say light line? Because I'm going to want to erase this later when I ink it. So I don't want this to be so dark that it's hard to get rid of, right? So that's 1 inch there. And then I know I need a 1/2 inch border on this side because I'm doing 10 by 15. But before I do that, I'm going to actually take and do another inch up here. That way when I measure the 1/2 inch, I can do it on each line and go straight across. Okay? So I'm going to flip my board around here and measure it again. If I wanted to use my T-square, I could do that too. And what I would do is once I measured 1/2 inch over there, I would just line it up and draw along. But I'm doing it without a T-square because I figure a lot of you won't want to purchase a T-square or have one. But if you like to do this type of stuff and you're into making comics or doing illustration, if you're an illustrator or do anything like this, you're going to want to invest in a few type of tools like this, possibly a T-square, and also this is a triangle that can be very useful for doing this type of layout work. And if you're interested in that type of thing, message me. I can tell you a couple other tools I might purchase at some point. Okay, but let's carry on with this conversation about laying it out with a ruler. So I have the top line up there. I got to do the same thing over here. Just carefully line it up. Make sure my ruler's at the very edge of the page looking straight down with one eye. Same thing, one eye, marking it on each side. This time I'm decided to do what I should have done the first time on the first little bit, is to line up my ruler all the way to the edge of the page. That way I know it's not distorted at all. I'm being very accurate. Close my eye to do that. Okay, now I'm going to mark it. I have it marked, I should say. Now I'm going to actually carefully draw the line. Making sure I hold it firmly while I do it. I have both of them, but I need to do something before I go any further, which is called measure twice, cut once in the world of carpentry. I'm a sculptor, so I do a lot of that too. We're not cutting anything, but in this case we kind of want to know we're accurate by measuring. And what I can do is put this way down here, and that's actually at an inch. And if I'm really good, which I think I am, but maybe I'm not. Yep, you can see it right here. My 16 lines up, which it should do because the 17 is at the edge of the page. So that means I got a really good, accurate inch and inch. Okay, so with yours, you would do this with 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches. Same idea though. This direction would be 2.5, and then yours would have been 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. Like I talked to you about, because you're going to do 1/2 inch gutters on yours, if you follow my advice. Now we've got to do 1/2 inch, right? So I'm putting my ruler down on this line all the way down here. And I'm going to put it on there so I can measure the 1/2 inch on the actual line. So there it is right there, 1/2 inch. Hopefully you know this. Most people do, but you never know. It's good to clarify. If you don't, it's fine. The big lines, of course, are the inch. The second biggest lines are the 1/2 inch. And then the ones that are the next biggest, so the third biggest, 1, 2, 3, down 3, a little bit bigger than the rest, that's a 1/4 inch. And then the next size down is 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, whole inch. You can see that it's broken up by quarters. And there's 1/8 inch lines that are a little longer too. So that's kind of how you read a ruler, just in case you were having any problems with that. It's pretty common for people who need a little help with things. So we're going to go the other way and do the same thing. You can flip your paper around if you need to and use the 1 inch side, or I'm just going to use it this way because I don't want to mess with the camera too much. It's at 17, and I'm going to go to 16.5 right there. I'll do it at the top just the same way. I have it at 1/2 inch, and then this is 11, so I'm going to go another 1/2 inch at 10.5. So I've got those there. Something I want to point out to you right now while I'm showing you, see how I had this mark right here? That was for the horizontal line, and this is for the vertical line. I got to be real careful when I'm doing this that I don't mix up my marks, because I can easily, if they were pretty close to each other, I could be like, oh, which one was it? So you got to really try to stay mindful of that type of detail while you're doing this. Okay, so I have a 1/2 inch there and a 1/2 inch there, so I'm going to go ahead. This time I am going to flip it around because it'll be a little easier. I'm going to line them up just like that. Sorry I don't have a cinematographer to help you guys have a better viewpoint, but I think it's coming across pretty accurately. And I'm going to go from there. I can go all the way just to the edge of the page and be fine with having that little cross over there. Go all the way over, and then I'm carefully doing it. Yep. So there it is. That's a 1/2 inch all the way up and down. And do it on the other side too. As you remember, I'm going to try to get my live area of 10 by 15, right? Okay. Make sure I'm lining up really accurately. Looking down it with one eye. Make sure I've got it fully lined up. I'm going to hold in the middle. I'm going to do really light pressure so I don't push my ruler off kilter as I go. And there you have it. That's the live area. Now, when you start to add panels into here, you're going to want to have the corner panels all the way up to the edge. So that will be where you'll ink it. But you don't want to take ink and do an ink line all the way down this right away, because you have to actually pencil out the panels first, right? So let's just do one 4 by 5 inch panel on this so that you kind of see what it's going to be like when you do the corner. So you go like that. You have a 4 by 5 inch panel. You want to do 5 inches this way and 4 inches that way, because we're going to orient it your project so that it's landscape, right? That with the way that I did the math for you. If you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. You'll just have to figure out the math for yourself. So you have that corner piece right there, and you want to do 5 inches and 4 inches. So you're going to go along here, that line for the very first one, and keep it on there, and then go to the 5. Okay, and then you're going to take that line out a little ways, not take it out, take the ruler out a little ways, because you're going to go 4, but that's going to be 4 inches high once we flip it back the other way, and 5 inches wide. And you're going to take your ruler and make another mark. What's really important is that you line up all the way to the top of that line there. You don't get off at all, otherwise it won't be square. You go 5, make a little dot. Now, this is where it's useful to have, this is why I say if you get into this, it's useful to have like a square or a T-square or a triangle, because you can use these to make sure your lines are straight and square by lining them up to the live area at the outside. For example, right here, I could just go. Okay, so that's that's something that can be really helpful, especially if if you have them on a board and you have all your margins exactly set up. But I'm going to continue on with it the way that most of you will be doing it. So I have the line there, have the line there to keep it straight at 5 inches. I need my box to be, let's see if you can see this. I need my box to be 4 inches high, and it's going to be 5 wide, right? Because this is the top, this is the bottom. I'm going to look straight down and make sure I get my ruler right on that live area line, closing one eye, and right into the right position. This is why I also told you guys that you may benefit from having a clear ruler, I recommend, because you can really see where you're at a little bit better. But a lot of you don't get those, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, just like you would be doing it. On top of which, I couldn't find my clear ruler because somebody borrowed it. Maybe my son. He doesn't borrow rulers yet, but maybe my wife. I'm not going to blame anyone. It's actually totally, most likely my own fault. I put it somewhere random. So that's 4 inches to there, and I need to measure out 4 inches on this line up here, and then I can complete the whole thing. And this will show you how the live area edge is the very far boundary of all the panels. I'm getting it all lined up. just in case you're getting bored and don't want to watch this. I'm not planning on having you guys have to watch me do a whole sheet of these. I just wanted you to see how you have a one panel done, okay? And then I'm going to do also one gutter. So that's that panel. It looks pretty accurate when I check it with my T-square. Okay, then I have my next panel down. I could take and try to measure the gutter of 1/2 inch from the bottom of this right here. See, this is the top. This is the top up here, bottom. So it's 5 by 4. I could do my 1/2 inch from the bottom of this, just going like that and measuring, right? But that would be problematic for a couple of reasons. One of them would be if this got off a little bit or it wasn't quite straight, then I'd keep adding to it. And this line up here I know is really pretty straight. So I'm better off actually marking by adding the 1/2 inch from up here. So measuring from 4.5 all the way up here to get my gutter accurately. So I go 4.5 and I go all the way. On my ruler, it goes all the way to the end because it starts at 0 at the end of the ruler. A lot of rulers actually have a little bit of space, so you have to be careful of that. So I have to do 5, right? Because 5's to the very edge of the page. There's 1/2. That's the 4. There's the 4.5. So I'm lining up my ruler to the 5 to the edge of the page, the 4.5 to the live area line, because I know that that's the distance from here to the edge of the gutter. I know the border from the live area to the edge of the page is 1/2 inch. So I'm kind of like double checking myself. I'm going to go over here and give myself a line. This is where you'll see that it's good to have a mechanical pencil because you can really make sure it's pretty accurate line. It's not getting too thick and throwing me off at all. Do it again. Here we go with closing one eye. That's another 1/2 inch line. Okay, so I have 2 of them. That'll help me get an accurate mark. I really should probably, and I'm going to do it because we're here talking about the best way to do at least one more somewhere down here, because look what's happening. I'm getting twisted and I can see already that's going off at a weird angle. So I'm going to make myself a mark a ways out here, actually. And make sure I'm kind of getting this really accurate here. I gotta check it again just to make sure. 5, 4.5 done. Okay. I'm gonna do one way out here just so I don't get like the trajectory throwing me off over a distance. Like if you had a ship you were steering and you just do a couple degree change. Once you get way out in space, it's like you're hundreds of miles off course. It's the same type of thing. Okay, so I'm going to do one really close right here. So that'll give me the gutter. I'm glad I did that because it shows me that I was a little bit off on that middle line. Yep, I was a little off, and so I can do that. Gutter, that gives me the 1/2 inch, and that's a 1/2 inch gutter. And now I can do my next border, the next panel border. So this is going to be erased when I go to ink it all. This will actually be the edge of the panel right here. This part will be erased. It's just, that's why I have to do light pencil lines. And when I go to ink it, I'll be inking it. Oops. I'll be inking only around these parts and then this part. And that'll get erased like a little spacer called a gutter in comics. So that's why I'm calling it a gutter, because it's the in between the 2 panels. So that gives you the idea right there. That's the one panel. Then I'll do the next one. Always measuring from here and the edge of the page to get the gutters so that way they stay square. This is why I recommend, you know, as an optional tool that you might like to have and use is T-square, because it does some of the work for you. Once you have it lined up, you can kind of go, you know, just mark it, and you can get straighter lines a little bit easier as long as your paper is square to the edge of your board. It's parallel both directions. That's what we mean by square. When we say like something's square, it means both sides are parallel. You could have this side and this side need to be parallel to the edges. If something was like off at a weird angle, it's not square. So it's a 90 degree to the edge of the page is 90 degrees. Alright, hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, please post them. I can answer more questions specific to your project, and you can see, that's not very good, you can see that right there. Yeah. I'm probably gonna, I would like to try to draw in ink, but then if I make a slight mistake, I can't correct it, so it'd be darker. So if you have questions, like I said, please ask and I can try to explain it better or look at your paper and see what you got going on. But that shows you the gutter and then the panels. Okay? Take care. Stay well out there and try to stay positive during this crazy dark time that we're living in.